Up next on Access ONU, student-run radio station RX3 undergoes big changes. We'll tell you what they are. RAs adjust to apartment living, and we feature an MIA group who put their lives at risk for their faith. You're watching Access ONU.
These are the stories impacting you on your campus. You're watching Access ONU.
Each school year is different, but one thing students don't seem to think about is the difference for RAs between dorm and apartment living. I sat down with an RD and an RA to find out more.
Access ONU cover story.
Living in the apartments or in the dorms, there is one thing that remains the same, the need for RAs. But how does an RA's life and responsibilities change from the dorms to the apartments?
Open house out in the apartments we have more frequently than in the dorms, and we give a lot more responsibilities to students.
I just love my residents. I love each and every one of them and getting to know them. The newness of this year is really great, and having the whole apartment to myself, with my roommates, but getting to invite my residents into my apartment, into my living room, into my home, instead of into my dorm room and just my dorm room. I have a living room for them to come and to be and to just relax.
In the apartments, floor dinners no longer happen when you have one RA to a building and each apartment with its own kitchen.
Because the dorms, everybody lives in the same building, on the same floor. It's easy to get to know each other. And out here in the apartments, it's a lot more difficult because people have the freedom to be in their own apartments and literally never have to leave except for class.
In the dorm, you have a lot of automatic community. You guys all share the bathroom. You're always in the hallways, coming back and forth, so you see your residents a lot. But in the apartments, I would say it's a lot harder to have that automatic community.
And so our RAs have a little bit more of a challenge in trying to build that community.
Mostly because when they come in, they go straight to their apartment, they stay there, shut the door, or they don't walk past your apartment door, so you have more of a chance, you have to go and create that community and make an effort to go into each of your residents' apartments.
I do have one RA this year that is, she was in the dorms last year, and this year she's in the apartments, and it is a lot different for her.
Well, one of the things that I've never had to do is give out toilet paper before.
I think, yes, their responsibilities are different, and what their job looks like is very different, but I think they equally have a very difficult task, and that to be an RA takes a special person.
Although being an RA in the apartments has different responsibilities, there will always be a need for them. For Access ONU, I'm Rebecca Hunt.
Of course, RAs are equally important in the dorms as in the apartments. Even though they may have different responsibilities or duties, they all have a floor or a building of residents they can connect with. Also in the apartments and dorms, Olivet's information technology has improved the quality of what we watch along with the wireless internet. And as Alyssa Franklin tells us, it's much easier to do homework or to just watch Netflix.
Wireless internet is something that has only become relevant in the last few years, but today's students use it for everything between getting an assignment turned in on time, checking their grades, and for entertainment. It's no wonder why Olivet's Wi-Fi improvement since last year has everyone talking. For an inside look, I spoke with Director of User Support Services for the IT department, Noel Slaby.
We've been making changes to Wi-Fi over probably the past 2 years. There have been some significant changes that have happened just over the last probably about 3 months. The most significant changes were changes to some of the back-end hardware. A lot of the global issues that we've had in the past, which is what people were experiencing, issues with connectivity where certain devices were having problems connecting. A lot of those issues have been resolved.
Last year, it was upsetting to me because I would be online to take a quiz and I'd have 6 minutes to complete it. And then one day as I was doing that, my computer just like stopped. It just like froze, like the internet froze. So I failed that quiz.
Another common question we get is when I'm streaming a movie through Netflix, I don't always get a high definition movie. Sometimes it'll go down to standard definition. You're always going to have issues with wireless connectivity. I don't think there's ever an environment that's a perfect environment.
Not only has there been a major improvement for the Wi-Fi in apartment life, but throughout the rest of campus as well. Last year, Olivet's main Wi-Fi connection, named Solomon, had many students complaining about their connection to the internet. But Olivet's Information Technology Department went right to fixing the problem.
The name before was Solomon, and we changed to ONU. And one of the questions we commonly get is, did you guys just change the name for marketing purposes? And the answer is yes, we changed it for marketing purposes, but that's not the only reason. We had to launch a new network anyway. By changing the name, we accomplished a couple things.
I think it's a good way to kind of put Solomon in the past, because I feel like that's like the dark ages of Olivet Wi-Fi.
Right now, wireless-wise, we're at the more advanced end of the spectrum if you compare us with our peers.
Wi-Fi is what makes the world of a college campus go round, so students almost demand a strong connection.
Nobody says, wow, I watched a movie last night and it worked great. They just assume that it should be there, and it should be there. I mean, that's part of residential living, is consuming content. So with the added new controllers and a lot of these other factors, we fully expect that it's going to be a much better experience.
Most know Olivet's radio station is Shine.fm, but for others, an internet student station known as RX3 has been on the air for years. But now RX3 is undergoing changes. Shine.fm Network General Manager Brian McIntyre joins us now for the details. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so for those who don't know what RX3 is, can you explain what that was?
Sure. RX3 actually stands for Rock, Rhythm, and Rap. It's sort of the R times 3. They got creative on that title, but it has been just another programming channel of what Shine.fm is, geared more towards a teenager college student, and so it's a station where our communication students learn hands-on. If you take the Broadcast Fundamentals course, you actually start by doing practice shows in our labs, and then eventually you do what's called voice tracking, which is pre-recording a show on RX3, and then as the semester moves along, you go into live shows on RX3. It's available online. It streams through the Shine.fm mobile app, as well as Shine.fm's website, and on iTunes as well.
Okay, so why did the station decide to change RX3?
Yeah, we've been working on this project really for a couple years, doing a lot of research of media technology trends and tastes are continually changing, and if you work in any kind of media, you're continually doing research on audience. And so looking at today's teenager college student, their musical tastes are all over the board, their listening habits are all over the place when it comes to Spotify, Pandora, and what we found initially through a major test we did with music is that the rock genre in Christian music seems to be a dying genre. There are still certain bands that break through Switchfoot, Skillet, some of the heavier Toby Mac stuff, and so what seems to be coming up to the surface as people like more and more is the hip-hop scene is really exploding right now in Christian music. You have a lot of new artists that are even getting a lot of recognition in the mainstream marketplace as being really, really good, and the pop stuff. And so when you look at mainstream media and what that age group is listening to, it's your typical top 40 station, which has this this wide variety of styles that can go from some rock-leaning stuff, pop stuff, hip-hop stuff. And so we're trying to create that within Christian music. There's lots of new artists now that fit that format. And so based upon the research we did, that's the direction we're going, and bringing along as many students that want to come along. We want this to be the student station. And so we want not just for students to buy into it, but to weigh into it heavily. And so we've created a committee that has subcommittees that are looking at different areas of radio. One would be our music and programming. The other would be our production and imaging. And then the third committee would be the social media, public relations kind of aspect to it. It's a complete rebrand with a new name and a new logo that's in the works right now.
Okay, so can you elaborate a little more on what changed, like what name exactly, or what other changes we might be able to see?
Sure. Well, we have decided on a name already.
Okay.
The new station will be called Spark, and it does air on, it'll air on internet, but we also air that on HD3 at 89.7, so in newer vehicles you'll have HD radio, and so you'll hear, of course, Shine on 89.7-1. On -3 we have our Spanish station Brilla, and then Spark will be on HD3. So it'll have a whole new imaging package. To explain what imaging is, our identifiers between songs that are produced and sound really sharp. We're actually have a committee that's writing a whole new imaging package, having it professionally produced. And the main goal is just involving more students in doing shows on Spark. We want to develop a full on-air team, completely student-based, who will be able to do shows to cover as many of the hours possible in a 24-hour day.
Okay, thank you for being here. We hit the streets to see what type of music you would like and why.
I like country music because my dad taught me to like it.
I really like hip hop and R&B music because it makes me feel good, it has great beats, and it's mainstream.
The reason why I like to listen to country music is because that's what I grew up listening to. And on long car rides, that's just what we listened to. Country music was the music of choice. It got us through the long car rides, and we all sang along to it because it was easy to sing to and understand, and we could all relate to it.
I like chill music. I like feel-good music because it makes me feel a certain way. It makes me feel, it gives me different emotions. I can feel either really happy or really sad with it, or I can jam to it.
I like to listen to country music because I kind of grew up in the country, and so that's just what we listen to.
As a part of the national trend, the number of women majoring in engineering has been rising. Olivet is no exception. The engineering department at Olivet wants to ensure the trend continues. Nathan DiCamillo has the story.
Olivet believes women belong in engineering. The school has a chapter in the Society of Women Engineers called SWE. It was started by several women engineering students and also the late Dr. Ken Johnson, and gives women engineering majors at Olivet support in a male-dominated field.
We are now an officially licensed chapter within SWE, so we're able to participate in conferences, able to essentially enjoy all the benefits of membership as college students, which is a big deal for a lot of these young women.
Some of Olivet's women engineers came to love engineering because of the influence of female math and science teachers in high school.
Basically, the reason I wanted to become an engineer is because of a woman teacher that I had in high school. My first class that I had at Olivet was with Professor Luby, and she's one of the only female professors that I've had at the school.
I actually didn't like science in middle school because I thought it was like a boy subject. But in high school, all my science teachers were girls, and they were my favorite teachers. All my math teachers, all my science teachers were women.
In 2016, researchers published a study that showed that white women were more likely to enter into STEM-related majors when their high schools had more math and science female teachers. The results for black women were inconclusive.
Well, Introduce the Girl to Engineering Day was one of our outreach programs. But one of the most rewarding things was we gave the girls a survey at the beginning and then at the end. And both times we asked similar questions, and one of the questions asked was, do you think that girls can make good engineers? We had maybe 70–80% in our pre-survey say, yeah, they thought girls could be engineers, but at our post-survey, 100% of the girls said they thought that girls could be good engineers.
So we get to bring in middle schoolers into our atrium, our Reed atrium, and we get to show them what it means for us to be engineers and kind of impress on them, kind of show them how important it is for women to feel like they're smart, that they're intelligent, and that they can be an engineer or a scientist.
Along with the rest of Olivet's engineering department, SWE continues to grow and continues to affirm that women make good engineers. Reporting for Access ONU, this is Nathan DiCamello.
Olivet sends hundreds of students on MIA trips every year. One group, through Olivet's communication department, took their message to a country where it's considered illegal to practice their own faith. Grace King is with one of the group leaders. Grace?
Access ONU Spotlight.
Thank you. I'm here with Dr. Heather McLaughlin, communications professor at Olivet. She recently led a trip to an MIA trip to a creative access area. How would you define a creative access area?
Well, creative access area, from what I understood, is basically a country where it is illegal to openly proclaim the name of Jesus, or so open evangelism is illegal in that country, and certain church activities are illegal. And so technically the church really isn't an organized kind of organization in that country.
And what was the purpose of this specific trip?
So this was a really exciting endeavor that we took. It was the first of its kind. We worked with the Church of the Nazarene, who has communications people over in the Eurasia region. And we went in, we wanted to find and gather stories of the people in these countries. And so we wanted to tell their story, but we had to be very careful with how we did that. So it was a media-focused mission trip where we were collecting B-roll, which is the term given for video footage, basically, of local ministries and people who lived in those countries. It was a really fabulous time.
And what was it like working with locals whose lives revolve around discretion?
Yeah, right. I mean, they had to be very careful with openly proclaiming, right, that they were Christians. And so when we do a standard interview, you can just say, hey, my name is such and such, and I'm from this country or this city or this town. And we really had to double think that and think that through. Okay, can you say that again, and maybe not say what country you're from or what your former religion was, because we had to be very careful with how we told their story. But we still wanted to tell their stories, and their stories of courage and their stories of coming to know the Lord, even in a country where it was illegal to do so.
Right, and you were working with students on this trip, so how did you train them in keeping those kind of secretive?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we had no idea, so we really we made sure that we were like overly sensitive about it, probably too much so. We came to find out. But so we talked about the fact that this is our situation. We need to make sure. Do we need to, like make them anonymous? Kind of do different lighting. We didn't end up doing that, but when we went to go edit those pieces together, we had to think about, okay, we can't post this on the internet. It needs to be, if we're ever going to show it in churches, it needs to not be live streamed or anything like that. There was all kinds of little things like that we had to think through. And I think as a team, we really tried to do that and did that well. And once we were in the country and got a sense for how open we could be, or how closed we needed to be, we did a fairly good job with that. But it was very, very eye-opening for sure.
And you said you plan on maybe using this stuff in churches. What else is the plan for the use of this media?
Yeah, well, so the Church of the Nazarene has communication efforts. So they try to spread the stories of all of the areas in which the Church of the Nazarene is working and things like that. So while the church is not officially organized in these countries, they need media. They need photos, they need video, they need stories, just in text-based stories. And there weren't very many from the area where we went. And so that helped kind of supply those needs for the church.
And are there any future plans for a media-based MIA trip?
Yeah, well, this was our first one, and we felt like it was a real success. I mean, it was amazing, and the students who went on it can attest to that. And so I'm working with the missionaries over there, and they said, will you come back? Let's try this again. And so we're in the midst of planning another trip. This time it's not to creative access. It'll be to Moldova and Ukraine, which are near Romania, and we're going to do the same kinds of things with media, but we'll be able to be a little bit more open. We're going to do youth camps and things like that. It's going to be awesome. It'll be next August 2017.
Okay, that's exciting.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you for being here with me today. Back to the studio.
Thanks for joining us for the latest edition of Access ONU. If you have a story idea, you can email us at accessonu@Olivet.edu. Also, check out Olivet's student newspaper, The Glimmerglass, at glimmerglass.olivet.edu. Have a great day.